Hello, and welcome to this session on online tools and resources for weather education. My name is Sam Lashley, and I am the Warning Coordination Meteorologist with the National Weather Service, Indianapolis. I'm happy to talk with you today about these online tools and resources for all kinds of weather information and data, even weather models and more advanced topics in meteorology. So I hope you will get something out of today's presentation. And at the end, we'll have my contact information. If you have any questions, you'll be more than welcome to contact me, and I'll be happy to answer your questions. So just to get started here, we're going to give you a little bit of a background on what meteorology is and where it dates back to. So the official definition is the study of physics, chemistry, and dynamics of the Earth's atmosphere, including the related effects at the air-earth boundary over both land and the oceans. So meteorology really dates back to the book Meteorologica by Aristotle, but this definition has really changed and evolved over the years, especially in the last 30 years, where the science of meteorology has really changed and improved, really. Our knowledge has really improved with the help of computers and supercomputers. So the National Weather Service actually uses some of the fastest computers in the world, and that's even a sub-career of meteorology we'll talk about is the computer sciences and information technology. So it's not just about weather. There's a lot of other career paths that can go hand in hand with meteorology, and like I said, we'll cover that a little bit as well later. But with the advent of these computers in the 1980s, we really started to learn more about how the Earth's oceans and atmospheres was really coupled, and they work hand in hand together. I'm sure everyone's heard of the term El Nino and La Nina, and that's where we really started to learn about how to forecast the weather in the seasonal terms. So a lot of times if we have a strong El Nino, we know here in Indiana and the Midwest, probably going to see below normal snowfall and warmer than normal temperatures. And we can trace that back to how these changes in the ocean affect the jet stream and the weather around the world. So we'll talk a little bit about that, and I'll show you some websites where you can learn more information about that as we go on. So that kind of leads us into what's the difference between weather and climate. So a nice little phrase here: climate is what you expect, weather is what you get. So there's a definite difference. Weather is that day-to-day forecast. We can really only forecast the weather out to 5 to 7 days. We're getting better in the week 2, the 7 to 14 day period, but climate is, like it says, what you would expect. So in the summertime, you're not going to need your winter coat, or in the wintertime, preferably, you're not going to need shorts. So that's climate, what those long-term patterns are expecting. We're not really going to get into climate change in this topic. I want to keep it more to the weather aspect, but I did want to bring this up, is that with that changing climate, we're just seeing changes in those trends in the long-term averages, and people always ask me, is the climate changing? Well, yes, the climate is changing. It's a science. The data is there. I'm a scientist. We're into the numbers and the data, and this topic's really become political, it seems, and we don't even want to go there. We just deal with data, and that's where we're going to stick to today, is pure science and data. So I'm going to switch gears here before I talk about this cloud chart and bring up a couple websites. So bear with me here as I switch over. And the first thing we want to talk about is our National Weather Service website. So this is where you can begin with all of your weather needs. Weather.gov, G-O-V. That's all you have to remember. You go to that site, it's going to bring up a map of the entire country. And here is what we call our watch, warning, and advisory page. And this is all of the headlines or weather events that are going across the country. So it gives you a nice quick snapshot of where the weather is across the country. So a lot of different things. We display not only information from meteorology and weather impacts, but also if there's any kind of state level alerts that are issued. And let's just go up here in this case to Montana, as the whole state is lit up there, and we see there's actually a child abduction emergency going on. So like I said, it's not just about weather, but here's an Amber Alert that was issued, and it shows up across the country. So this is a nice place to go to get all of your one-stop shopping weather forecast and weather information. If we go down here to southern Indiana, this is the Louisville forecast office, and you can see that there's a flash flood watch in effect, and you just can continue to drill down. We'll click on Madison, Indiana here, and it brings up the forecast and also the headlines that are into effect to give you more information. So you really, when you're looking for just that day-to-day forecast, we strongly recommend weather.gov, and we have meteorologists on at all offices 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and we're constantly updating the forecast so you can get the latest information for your area, or if you're traveling, this is a great place. But it's also great if you want students to compare the weather in one part of the country to a different part of the country, look at forecasts. I'm going to show you some sites where you can get data for previous days, high, low, that kind of thing. So this is a nice place to start if you're looking at projects. This site from the National Weather Service called Jetstream is a great online tool for weather information. So I can't even possibly begin to go through every section of this, but this is a great online resource where you can really teach the subjects about meteorology and weather from this site. So if we just click on this first link here to the atmosphere, it just starts, breaking it down, going back to chemistry. What's the atmosphere made up of? And the way this website is set up over here on the right-hand side, there's several different sections within this. So there's layers of the atmosphere. And here you can see a nice chart and explanation as you go up in the different spheres that we go through, from the stratosphere all the way up to the exosphere, and explanation about each one. So there's also this Take It to the Max, and it just gives you a website that goes to a different link with just some more in-depth information here. So you can learn about the ionosphere and why it's important. And then there's even these links called learning lessons, AM and the PM. So if we click on that, it gives us some learning lesson plans that you can let the students learn more about this, and it prompts you as teachers with procedures to follow and discussion topics. So as you can see, it's very well laid out, and it starts again with the atmosphere, and then it goes into more advanced topics. So I'm going to go back here to where we were at, and I'm going to go down here. There's air pressure. This is a very basic topic that we want to talk about, difference between high pressure and low pressure. As meteorologists, we deal with height in terms of pressure, and that is because when the air is very warm in the summertime, the atmosphere expands, and in the wintertime when it's cold, the atmosphere contracts. So 10,000 feet doesn't mean much to us as meteorologists. So we want to know in terms of pressure levels. So in this case, 500 millibars, as you can see here. The height of that 500 millibar will change in warmer air versus colder air. So this leads to us looking at ridges and troughs in the atmosphere, and that's where we really start to forecast the weather. These troughs are an indication of changes that are coming in, and weather tends to happen ahead of these troughs. And that's what, as meteorologists, we're looking at in the atmosphere. So again, this website's going to explain that in more detail. The basic hydrologic cycle is discussed, a real nice chart here. And a lot of these graphics you can print out and hand out if you'd like. Again, you can see more learning lessons here, more detail. And again, very well-rounded website. So if we go down here and click on next, now we're going to jump to the next section. So the ocean and all the different topics from the ocean. So at the bottom of each page is just the next button, and you can progress through this however you like. Again, you want to skip one section, go to another, you can do that as well. So all you have to do is remember weather.gov/Jetstream, and just you can spend days and days on here because there's so much information, a really good website. The next site I want to show you, and you may have seen this, is called Jinx or Jinx, however you want to pronounce it. But this is a kind of a collaboration between NOAA and NASA. This is geared more towards younger students, so maybe late grade school or early junior high. But there's just, again, a lot of ways to present the information, and just different topics, air mass, atmosphere. And again, it just depends on the age of the student whether or not this would be appropriate, because there is a lot of kind of cartoon things, but they have some really good diagrams that helps explain differences. So here, between make it rain or snow, you can actually change the atmospheric conditions. And then that is going to lead then to what the precipitation type would be when it reaches the ground. So in this case, you see snowflakes start falling from the cloud, but they're not reaching the ground. It takes them longer and longer because we decrease the relative humidity here in the atmosphere. So real quick science lesson for you. This is the temperature in this green line, and this is the dew point in the red line. So if we were to bring them closer together, but bring them below the 0 degrees Celsius line, now you can see those snowflakes coming down and making it farther down. But if we increase both of these and say take them above the freezing level, now we've got this warm layer up in the atmosphere. So we fall as snow, turns to raindrops, and then hits the ground. And because the surface temperature is below freezing, this would be freezing rain. So you can really play around with this and see why it's very difficult to forecast precipitation type at the surface in the wintertime. So just real cool interactive sessions there. There's a lot of multimedia with a lot of videos, a lot of posters, a lot of things you can download and print out and give to your students. So again, geared probably more towards your elementary and younger junior high students. But as teachers, you can definitely go in and get a lot of information here and then recreate it for older students. So I definitely wanted to show that here for you because of the benefits of the data that's available. Similarly, Skywarn, this is a Weather Service education page, kind of geared towards that same learning experience. So I won't spend a lot of time on this, but again, links to more information. And if you have questions, you can come here and maybe learn something and present it in a different way. So just a lot of really good information here. Weird weather is kind of cool. Just some facts. Virga. What is Virga? That's when precipitation falls, but it evaporates before it reaches the ground. So Virga shows up on radar. So when you learn about radar and how it works, you're like, well, the radar showed an area of rain coming at us, but it never rained. Well, probably it was evaporating before it reached the ground, but that radar is shooting up into the clouds, and so you're not able to see it. So just, Fujiwara effect. What is that? Probably never heard of that. It's just a more advanced term. You can see two weather systems here, and one kind of rotates around the other. So that was named Fujiwara after the scientists that developed that. So just a lot of different weather terms that people may not have heard of, but you can go here and get more information. So a lot of different links like that are available off this Skywarn webpage. And then here's another resources, more about things you can get from the Weather Service from different offices. Talks about how to schedule school talks, office visits. As a warning coordination meteorologist for Central Indiana, I handle all those requests. But each Weather Service office around the country has a warning coordination meteorologist, or WCM as we're called, and they can take care of setting things up like this for your classroom. Of course, it might be difficult depending on what's going on to actually get someone into the school, but we can certainly look at virtual talks through different means such as GoToWebinars or Google Hangouts, that kind of thing. We're going to talk more about meteorology careers later in the talk, so I'll skip that. But then this website also shows teaching experiments and places you can go on site. We already talked about the Jetstream and the Jinx, but there's just a lot of others listed on here. And even some educational posters, maybe for ideas if you're looking for science projects for kids to doing, again, more advanced topics. Maybe they can get some ideas from these posters here. And then this is really cool. Build your own tornado machine. Here's some instructions for how to build a tornado machine. Now, we are working on creating a very similar one like this at our office. We haven't got it finished yet. There are some different plans out there for how to do this, but it makes for a great classroom project or even a science fair project. They're really pretty easy to make. You just have to get all of the tools and materials ahead of time, but you can find them. Most hardware stores carry everything you need, and when you're done, it creates, you can see here in the picture, a nice little thin tornado, and kids can actually interact with it. So you can really vary the dimensions. You can make it smaller or bigger. I generally wouldn't recommend bigger, but certainly you can make it smaller if you need to. So that's just some good information there on a science fair project. Now I have to show some weather safety information as part of the National Weather Service. That's our primary mission, is protection of life and property. So this website here, weather.gov/safety, just has all kinds of information on every single weather hazard out there and the safety tips that you need to take. So everyone's really familiar with lightning. Our motto is when thunder roars, go indoors. Just some great facts here and more websites, myths and facts. There's a lot of myths out there, so this kind of takes care of some of that. We're always looking to add new ones here and just make sure that people have the facts. So a lot of options, multimedia, just some videos, public service announcements, things you can share with your students on this as well. Frequently asked questions. Maybe you're not sure, lightning and cars, just give that a click. And a nice little write-up about how your car is actually a safe place to be and why it's actually protected and what protects it. So give that a chance if you want more information on weather safety. Now this site is really cool. This is called Science on a Sphere. So several years ago, NOAA developed a replica of the Earth. You can see it here, and the way it's designed, it almost looks like it's hovering in the air. So a lot of museums now employ this. The Science Museum in Fort Wayne, I believe they still have this on display, so you can go in and see this. And you can actually, if you have a big enough group and a big enough place to locate this, you can actually look at applying to get this installed at your site. So in the meantime, let me go up here, getting SOS. So here it is, and there's information here and a website you can email. If maybe you're looking at a partnership with a local entity, or you want to have this on display, you can give them an email at this website, and it's a possibility with the right funding, you can get this actually shipped to your school or to your region and have this Science on a Sphere on display. Now, most aren't going to be able to do that. So they've created this Science on a Sphere Explorer that does a lot of the same thing, but in a two-dimensional format, and it's available for download. You can get it on your iPad, and you can display the similar data sets, but just in a two-dimensional format. So it works kind of similar to Google Earth. So I really wanted to show that because there's a lot of data sets out there already prepared, and you can really look at the globe in a two-dimensional aspect, but see a lot of different things. And here's some of the data sets that are available. We'll just go to all here. And here's a catalog on human impacts on the ocean and water, snow and ice, fresh water, weather. So it's going to take you all around the world and let you look at this and envision this data in a completely different and more interactive method. So you can see here just a lot of data sets, so you can go through this, see what you like, and download that in addition to the SOX Explorer app. So again, that's available for your iPads if you have those in your school. And I'm not sure if you can get it for just a regular laptop computer. But if you have a question on that, you can send me an email if you can't find it on this website, and we can find out more for you. And then another weather education site with videos is YouTube. Every Weather Service office has a YouTube account. So this is the Indianapolis office. We're just really starting to get into this. So I think you're going to see more educational videos being displayed. Here we have our Weather Spotter talks. So I took all of our Weather Spotter shows that we go out and give to the public. It's about a 2-hour show. And I broke it down into 6 segments. So you can go through it. Each segment ranges anywhere from 5 to maybe 15 to 20 minutes. So you can go through it at your own pace. But you can learn about what we train our weather spotters to look for. And once you take these, actually students can become trained weather spotters, especially junior high and high school students. Go through all 6 of these, and then they can send me an email that they've done their training, and they're actually considered official trained Weather Service spotters. So if you'd like more information on that, visit our website, visit our YouTube channel, or send me an email for that as well. Here's an example of some severe storms back in 2019, and we put together a radar loop and just a brief explanation of what happened during those storm events. So we're hoping to do more of that. We're hoping to put together kind of some short educational videos and make those available on this website. So check that out for all Weather Service offices around the country and around the state. There's 6 Weather Service offices that serve Indiana. So just look at what part of the state you're at and what office serves your area and give that a look. So now I want to look at some data sites. Where can you get some information that you can let your students kind of compare data from around the country or around the globe, really? Where can you get a little bit more in-depth weather? So this is a website that's really important to me. COCORA stands for Community Collaborative Rain, Hail, and Snow Network. So this program was started in Colorado over 20 years ago after some devastating floods occurred. And it's a citizen science-based website, volunteers taking weather observations around the northern hemisphere. It's expanded into Canada. It's expanded into the Bahamas. It's just really expanding well beyond the reaches of the United States. But here you can just simply click on the map, and it's going to zoom in. Every one of these dots is a volunteer weather observation that was taken on this particular day, June 30th in this case. And again, you just drill down into the data, and you can see that the color code of each dot matches a range of precipitation. And we start seeing, orange and reds are, oh my gosh, over 2 and 3 inches. And you want to say, well, where was that at and how much occurred? So we look even closer. And here we have all these reports, and looky here, 3.34 inches. Now, initially you'd say, oh, that doesn't make sense. That's got to be a mistake. Well, it just so happens in this case, that's the National Weather Service Indianapolis office. We participate in COCORAs, And early in the morning, we had a thunderstorm that developed right over the office and just dumped over 3 inches of rain. And just about a mile to a mile and a half from the office at the actual airport, just a little over an inch was recorded. So that's the importance of this program, is that it measures these great changes in precipitation over short distances. I show this because this data is available for anybody and everybody to use. So if you go up here and click on View Data and select Daily Precipitation Reports, you can get this nice tabular format of how much precipitation fell. You can put in a start date, an end date. You can simply click on the headers and it will sort the data just like a spreadsheet. So you can just do a copy, paste it into a spreadsheet. And the beauty of this is I like to tell teachers, okay, have your students pick 2 different cities across the United States and maybe do a comparison, or 2 different states or 2 different areas. And they can graph the data and do comparisons once you get it into a spreadsheet. So a lot of options there. And you can go down to the county level. So, maybe in Indiana, you could compare 2 different counties, maybe Boone County, and there's the reports, and compare those with, let's say, up in the northern part of the state, Allen County on this particular day. So just, whatever you want the students to get out of this with science, technology, math, you can let them experiment and have a data set. One other thing I really like under this view data is daily comment reports. All of the observers can add personal comments. So just a lot of insight into the weather observations. And again, you can see this for anywhere around the country, including Canada and the Bahamas. So just sometimes, especially with hurricanes or with wildfires out west, you get some very interesting information from observers in addition to just their precipitation. So that website is just cocoras.org. And in case I forgot to mention it, which I think I did, there will be a handout or resource with all of the websites mentioned here today. So you'll have that available to you if you haven't written them down as I've gone through them. So I apologize for not mentioning that sooner. Another thing, while we're on this CocoRa's website that's very important, under education, click on that. There are lessons plans that's been developed, some for 4-H. There's a program for schools. We understand you're not going to be able to take observations all the time, but you can click there for more information on that. And then for more information under videos, these are really nice animated videos that talk about how to take precipitation measurements. So if you want to get more in depth, and again, they're very well done, and I think you could do these for middle school and even high school if you have a good class. I use these when I go out and train the public, but just to get you a feel for some of these, let me kind of click on one here and let me start it over and let it play. So I've got my sound turned off here. Let me get that back on.
Rain gauge. Hopefully you already have your 4-inch plastic rain gauge that you use for CocoRa's. If not, you can find a link to pick one up on our website, www.cocoras.org.
So you can see it's done very nice animation here, and with sound that goes along with it. So you can share those, let them play, maybe talk about what each one, what you learn from each video. Now moving on here, this is the Midwest Regional Climate Center. And again, this would be if you're looking for data to use, and you can create maps here. Now this is based out of Champaign, Illinois, and I would recommend this Climate, but you do have to sign up for an account. It's free, so you just do have to register, put in your email and a password, but you can get a lot of access to raw data, and you can generate maps that, like you see here, for the Midwest, You can do it just for Indiana. So that's kind of the neat mapping feature if you want to look at high temperatures for certain dates or for periods of time, or how much precipitation fell during a certain period of time. This is where you can go to generate the map. So again, you'd come here to mrcc.illinois.edu and then click on this Climate, sign up for an account, and you can really play around with this and get a lot of good information. So check this website out when you're looking for that data source. Drilling a little bit closer to home, the Indiana climate site by the state climatologist office. Again, another really good place that is really being revamped and redeveloped. So they've got a lot of things that are in the future that they're going to be adding to this website. Rather than, having a picture of the Midwest like the Midwest Regional Climate Center, this one is strictly for Indiana. And again, you can just make your own maps or download maps for the state from this website. Now we'll look at a few sites where you can actually get forecast weather information. These are more in-depth, again, more advanced. But if you haven't seen these, the Storm Prediction Center, spc.noaa.gov, is where all of the convective watches come out of Norman, Oklahoma. So when you hear a severe thunderstorm watch has been issued or a tornado watch has been issued, your local National Weather Service office has collaborated with the Storm Prediction Center, and they really determine kind of the big picture where a watch is in effect. Then it's your local National Weather Service office who's actually issuing the warnings and putting those out to you. So that's kind of the way it moves. But if you want that advanced notice, this website is where you can go to see that. So this is called a convective outlook. That sort of shows you where in the country they're monitoring for possible watches or where they think severe weather might develop. So you're seeing more and more of this on your local news stations. You're really probably hearing more of a 1 out of 5 threat or a 2 out of 5 threat. And that correlates down here to the color code for what you're seeing there on the map and the different risk categories. So obviously that 1 is just kind of isolated. As we get into 2, we're expecting more storms. 3, even more storms, but even some very strong storms, a good tornado potential. And once we get into these 4 and 5 categories, those are not issued very often, but when we do issue those categories are very life-threatening situations. So you can learn more about that and understand that kind of information. There's also the Weather Prediction Center. They're based out of Silver Spring, Maryland, where our headquarters is located, just outside of Washington, D.C. So this is more of a large-scale picture for the country where the heavy rain threats are going to be. They put out the surface weather maps like you might see on television, so you can get an idea of where cold fronts are at or if you're under high pressure. And they put the forecast guidance out for your local offices, so we'll consult with those. And you can get an idea of these fronts where they're going to be all the way out to 7 days. So the first 3 are shown here. And if you click on days 3 through 7, that's going to give you a more basic picture, but you can just kind of walk through each day and see what the weather is going to be like. So in this case, days 3 through 7, you can see that big blue H stands for high pressure, kind of drift down over the Great Lakes and the Midwest, and not a lot of fronts in this case coming up for Indiana. Now you can see up here at the top excessive rainfall. There's a moderate, a slight, and a marginal, very similar to the Storm Prediction Center categories. And this is just for excessive rainfall and not necessarily severe storms from damaging winds or tornadoes, but from heavy rain and the potential for flash flooding. So again, they've highlighted this area around the Mississippi River. This doesn't always pertain and match up with river systems, just in this case it happens to. But wherever they think heavy rain is going to fall and flash flooding may develop, their confidence level will then be dictated by these categories. So you'll see the moderate and the high levels used for excessive rainfall a little more frequently than the Storm Prediction Center does for severe weather, but that's because heavy rain happens a lot more often. So Weather Prediction Center, if you're not using that, again, another place just to monitor for weather across the country and the potential for heavy rain. And they also do winter weather forecasting. Now, the National Hurricane Center, very active, obviously, in the summer into the fall. And right now, there's not a lot of activity going on. It just so happens the Saharan dust cloud that's been moving over the Atlantic actually suppresses hurricane activity. So not a lot going on to show you, but the website is very good. When there is a hurricane, you can get detailed information here. You can track the path of hurricanes and tropical storms. So when we do have weather, check this site out. Just a lot of information. They will issue advisories and tracks of hurricanes. You can get the lat lawns and actually plot them yourself. So just a real good review of sort of our national centers that monitor weather across the entire United States, as well, again, as the Northern Hemisphere, especially with the National Hurricane Center here. So there's a lot of careers in meteorology and weather and climate, and I alluded to that earlier. This is the National Weather Service's page for more information on careers. So weather.gov/careers. And just, again, a lot of links to more information. You can find out what it's like to work for the National Weather Service, what our vision is. We want to have a weather-ready nation, and that just means preparing society for weather-dependent events and making sure they can respond appropriately to help protect life and property. So that's our vision if you want more information on that. And that maybe, will stimulate students. Oh, that sounds interesting. I want to be involved in this. And then just more information on careers in meteorology, hydrology. We have hydrologists, and they're responsible for river flooding. How high is the river going to get? Are we monitoring the river levels appropriately? And they handle most of that. So maybe, it's not forecasting the weather, but forecasting what the water levels are going to do once the rain occurs. That's a possible career. Any of the physical sciences, we have a space weather center that's run by NOAA where we're monitoring space weather events. So maybe that's a potential interest. So you can click on that and get more information there. And then just a lot of the electronics, information technology. Each office has an information technology specialist. Make sure our software and hardware is working together. We have electronic support staff that go out and make sure all of our equipment in the field are operating. So as I mentioned, it's not just about weather. There's a lot of other potential careers in meteorology and working for the Weather Service. So I strongly recommend you point your students to this website if they're interested and want to learn about more information. Oops, got a pop-up window there. Sorry about that. Another potential site, the National Severe Storms Laboratory. These are more of the research scientists that kind of are developing and testing the advanced technology that we're going to be using in 5 or 10 or 15 years. So if research and programming and things like that are more up a person's alley, they can check this information out on this website and learn more about that. Over here on the right, the military trains and employs meteorologists as well. So the armed services are certainly a place to get more information on careers. And then the American Meteorological Society. This is sort of the body that governs the meteorology profession, so to speak, between not only the government but the private sector. We have a great relationship, and they sort of bring everything together for us. So they have a great website here on careers, not just for government, but in the private sector, and things maybe you wouldn't think about, such as aerosols and air quality and meteorology in that terms and atmospheric sciences. So probably a lot more in-depth information on this website compared to what I showed you with the other two. Now I want to just wrap things up here with a little bit more advanced topics. So everybody is into the weather models, the weather radar, satellites, and I just wanted to show a couple websites where you can get that kind of advanced information if you have students who are really into it, or just for yourselves if you want to look at. This is the College of DuPage, and they have just a fantastic website where you can get the radar, the satellite, and the model data all in one location. But I really like this site for satellite and radar. So if you select weather analysis and tools, satellite and radar, satellite's very difficult to find on the internet in high details. So this site, you can go right to it. You can click on the link to loop it, and they have very high definition satellite data. So give that a look. And just so much going on here across Indiana. We have storms in the southwest, but we have clear skies in the northeast, and just a big picture of what's going on. You can go over here to the left, select regional sectors. You see these little dots pop up. Give one of those a click, and you can zoom in even further. And you can go down to a sub-regional level as well if you want to get really close up. So you can do this not only for satellite, but also for the weather radar on this site. And I won't go into that for the sake of time, but you can play around with this site. It's very intuitive, very easy to learn. And they also have the weather model data that works in a similar fashion. This is a experimental product from the National Weather Service. So it's kind of a weird URL here, preview.weather.gov/EDD. And again, just a lot of different information where you can click on, you get a map here initially, you can zoom into Indiana. And I've got a tab here already with some weather data sort of loaded up. And this website, I'll be honest, sometimes it can take a little bit of time for it to load, but here's some radar data, and we can loop it. And there it goes. So you can see these storms or showers really today, just kind of draped across the state, not really moving too much. And we can turn on rivers if we wanted to see where there's different rivers and hydrographs. Again, that's taking a little bit of time to load here, probably because I'm slowing my connection down. But you can just turn different things on and off here. So here's a temperature forecast that's overlaid with the radar, and just shows up as an image in the background. Another one of these websites where you can just spend hours playing around with all the different tools. And the more you load, the slower it becomes. So here we can put on, again, temperatures. You can look at precipitation, 6-hour high and low temperatures, and just track things that way. So another more advanced website that you can experiment with at your leisure. And then a couple education sites that I really wanted to show because they have good information. But the Purdue Extension office has a weather and climate section. So if any students are in 4-H, they may have done this, but the manuals that are associated with this have a lot of really good tips and suggested experiments and different things like that. So I think you do have to purchase the manuals from this site if you're interested. But just another resource if you're in 4-H, you work with 4-H, just be aware that is available from the Purdue Extension office. And then finally here, this is really advanced. This is known as the Comet MetEd site. These have some very advanced topics in weather training. You can see some that scroll through here. You do have to get an account and sign up. But the the animations, the explanations are very detailed, very thorough. And this is maybe for yourselves if you want to learn more topics in meteorology. You can kind of go through their online library and see what's available and maybe use this for your own education. But there might be some things in here for their more advanced students who want to learn more. So just go there and go up to education and training. And again, just a lot of different topics. Aerosols. GOES is the geostationary Earth orbiting satellite. So you can learn more about how those work. Really get into meteorology, satellite jet analysis. And you can see some of these are quite long. It may take several hours. Others may take a half hour to an hour to go through. It just really depends on the topic. So that is your really more advanced website to look at. So that's all the websites I have. I'll go back to my presentation here and swap this around for you. So this cloud identification chart is on the Jetstream webpage that we looked at. These are very, very nice to print out and give to your students who want to learn more about identifying clouds. The Jinx website that we talked about early on, that has some animations like this for how rain and thunderstorms develop. You get the heating, you get clouds that grow. And so again, you can talk about this. You can download these animations. They're animated GIFs and done really well and just helps explain the topics. You want to learn what makes lightning? This animation shows how the precipitation particles inside a storm create sort of a friction and separate charges, and then that leads to lightning. And then once you kind of have the ice and you start to get lightning, this animation kind of shows how your positive and negative charges, your leaders develop and your streamers, and how they come together to form lightning. So you can use this animation to teach about the lightning topic. These were from the lightning safety tips on the Weather Service webpage. There's that when thunder roars, go indoors, a nice little poster there. Some safety rules and tips. And again, you can get all this on those safety pages. So that's really all I have. There's my contact information on the page there. I am on Twitter. If you look me up at /man_US. You can contact me by email at sam.lashley@noaa.gov. Or if you just go to our website, you can send an email to the webmaster if you ever forget this information, and that will get directed to me as well. So I hope you've learned a lot today. We covered a lot of pages, and there's a lot more out there. We can only do so much in a short period of time. Look for these links on the handout and resources page. And with that, I hope you enjoyed it, and we will maybe chat one day about weather. Thank you.